Oh, hello there. I didn't see you. Just kidding.
All right, episode one.
You're running through the darkness. You're running through the darkness. Running through the darkness. We don't need the love. You're looking for a place to hide. We protect you from the cold. Your life seems so meaningless.
Good evening. I'm Nyx,
And I'm Ophelia.
and this is Between the Covers.
This is a podcast where we read bad or decent romance novels and give you the rundown.
Yeah. So let's just jump right in. Let's slip between the covers and get started with today's read. It's called
Barely a Viking, a paranormal werebear shifter romance.
by Lacey Edward. One Edward. So we thought that a good place to start would to be giving you guys kind of a rundown on the author, just to give you a little backstory. So Miss Lacey Edward.
Yeah, so Lacey Edward, she's an interesting person, you know. She lives in Canada. She has got a husband. She's got 2 daughters. And you know what they like to do? This is exciting. All right. This is from LaceyEdward.com. She has a good rundown of her personality. And
Activities.
things she likes to do. So she likes skiing, sliding in the winter, and in the summer, boating. Oh, and golfing, too.
Golfing, swimming.
Yeah, but most interesting is that she's trying to learn mixed martial arts in case one of her unsavory characters comes to life. That's a direct quote from the website.
Unsavory characters. You know, I really couldn't think of a snapshot less likely to be a romance author than this person. I mean, really, suburban life, husband, 2 kids, boating,
But
golfing.
if you think about it, who needs to write? It's like when you're an awkward teenager and you're writing fan fictions about your favorite characters, right? This is
Oh my God.
the lonely middle-aged housewife version of fan fictions. You know, she's the type of person that needs to live through this fantasy, and that's what she's doing.
I suppose. I mean, you know what? If I had a husband and 2 daughters and all we did was go golfing and boating, I'd probably write romance novels too. She's clearly missing something from her.
Nyx, I'm honestly shocked that you don't already write romance novels.
How dare you? Ophelia, you bitch. Maybe I do. Maybe you'll see one. Maybe we'll review one of mine next.
Yep.
All right. So after a fascinating snapshot into Lacey Edwards' home life, let's jump right in. So Barely a Viking is a 73-page novelette. 73 pages. That takes place in presumably 700s era England.
Yeah, so they mentioned Lindisfarne, so it's probably...
Which is awesome.
Yeah,
Lindisfarne.
700s.
Yes. Viking things. Accurate Viking things. So definitely props
Shocked.
for that. Yeah.
I would... It's called Barely, with B-E-A-R, Barely, a Viking. I was not expecting anything accurate whatsoever.
no.
I mean, the cover has a Viking with a horned helmet
Yeah,
on it. Don't
and
even
like
get us
the
started.
sword looks like the sword of Conan's father, like Crom, like yeah. So set in Lindisfarne era England, a small settlement is raided by the Vikings, and most of the people are murdered, but a few, including Edith, our main character, are taken as slaves. There's a perilous boat journey across the northern sea over. Wait, I don't know.
It's the North Sea. It's from England to Norway.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
geography. It's
Yeah, and
not my strong point. Right. So they go to Norway because they do speak Norwegian in this book.
modern Norwegian.
Modern Norwegian. But Scorch, can you keep it down over there? We're trying to film a podcast.
Oh, sorry, I didn't notice.
Oh,
So our fearless protagonist,
Edith,
she gets swept away by this
hunky
burly
Viking.
Yeah.
He's got beautiful blonde hair, piercing blue eyes. Something about his smile. I don't remember. So she gets brought back, and then she becomes a live-in nanny. Wish I was kidding. Totally not. And then time passes, and then
time passes.
days become weeks, become months.
And that's it. That's
Verbatim.
how time passes.
That's how time passes. And then one day, Edith snaps because she's so over the mundane domesticity of her life as a kept woman, and follows Asbjørn into the forest where she witnesses him becoming a bear with his 3 best friends, which totally does not have any gay undertones.
Remember, it's a werebear shifter romance. So
Right,
you gotta
werebear
have a werebear
shifters.
shifter, even if it only happens on
Once.
less than a page.
Less than a page. It's true. And then they fuck, and then the book's over. So, pretty succinct little plot line. Could have been longer. I mean, I would have read it if it was longer too.
I was looking for more pages. I was honestly surprised. I was like, wait a minute, it ended?
I
Oh.
looked it up on Kindle, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. Description, this and that, length 73 pages. It's like, it's gonna take me less than an hour to read this bitch. Okay. And it did.
Yeah.
So we've got a pretty straightforward plot: kidnapping, sailing across the sea, becoming a nanny, discovering that your Viking kidnapper is actually a werebear, and then sex. So let's move into the characters.
All right.
Fascinating characters.
So I would start with Edith.
Right,
She's
yes.
the main character.
The main character, Edith.
She's our heroine. She's a poor,
like-
uneducated peasant woman living in an English village.
Yeah, with her
She-
husband.
Yep, with their husband Alfred.
Alfred. Edith
Edith
and Alfred.
It's Lacey Edwards' parents' names.
She's like immortalized in text. This is for you, Mom and Dad. Like, oh my God.
And
Pretty immediately, Alfred dies. So
Yeah.
no character development there. I mean, very little character development with Edith as well. But
yeah, so they hide in the church, and then Edith is not. She's uneducated, but she's not stupid.
Right.
She remembers as she's in the church. Wait a minute, why are they trying to come in here? Oh,
right,
Lindisfarne. She remembered hearing about Lindisfarne because
Yeah.
it was something that was just so out of the ordinary to happen that even to her small village, they actually
yeah.
spread the knowledge of it.
And
So,
I mean,
yeah.
honestly, if her village hadn't had a church, they probably would have been left alone.
Yeah.
So it's God's fault.
Yeah, they knew to look at the church for their treasure and everything.
Right,
And
yeah.
they were right. They actually, they found a lot of treasure.
They did. They
Including Edith.
including Edith. She was the real treasure.
For Asbjørn, she
For
was.
Asbjørn, yes. So, I was a little disappointed with Edith's character because, Asbjørn uses all these words to describe her when he's talking to his friends like Brynna and Egil. He's like, she's so defiant and fiery and this and that.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. 'cause
I
she
didn't
doesn't
see
show
any of that.
Yeah, she's not defiant at all.
No,
really.
not really. She just kind of goes with it. I mean, honestly, in her position, I probably would have too. Just been like, "Oh, you're stealing me?
Yeah.
Well, shit."
And she's incredibly lucky
Yeah.
to not have been killed or, or worse, or been put on display for the Jarl to be chosen by some other person that she didn't learn to trust at least a little bit. So
yeah. So she's a very bland character, honestly.
yeah, I mean, I bet Lacey was intending to have the reader be able to put themselves into her.
Sure, like an
But it's
everyman
hard because
character.
but she has no personality or
then
anything. So
not really.
any person that has,
Any kind of
any
personality
good qualities.
probably wouldn't
Yeah.
connect. I didn't connect with Edith personally.
No, not at all.
I connected with Brynja, which was
course.
one of Asbjorn's friends.
I thought of you as I read about her.
Oh, Philia. I'm touched. Yeah, no, Brynja is cool. She immediately off the bat, she's got sass. She's wearing armor. She clearly was part of the raid. Like, she knows, Edith's language. She speaks her Norwegian.
She
modern
works as a
Norwegian.
translator.
She does do translation.
She teaches.
Yeah, she's very helpful, but she also is not afraid to show her opinion. And let's just be clear, Brynja's character gets all of like 3 pages worth of description and already has more personality than the main character does. Like, it's just a little weird. So, I don't know. I didn't really feel anything for Edith. I mean, yeah, it sucks. Like, sorry, your home got burned down and your husband got murdered in front of you, and now this hunky Viking is sweeping you away to Norway.
It's the 700s. This stuff happens.
No. I know, right? Like, but, yeah. Asbjorn's a pretty interesting character, though. I mean, he's very sensitive.
He is. He's soft and he's loving.
He's a big softie underneath
caring. All of it. He sacrifices his own fur cloak on the
trip, on the crossing when there's a really bad storm and Edith is seasick. And he brings her like his cloak and
grunts,
romantically grunts as he places it around her shoulders or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but he really makes an effort to try to communicate with her.
He does. Yeah,
Brynja.
he asks Brynja to like teach him her language, and of course he's like, oh, because you have to be able to communicate with your slaves. But like we saw through that, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Asbjorn, he's kind of a pushover though.
Yeah.
Like he lives with his sister and her kids. Like no mention of those kids' father or anything. Like,
honestly, he's probably just a bit clueless with girls.
Yeah.
And Brynja brings up, there's all these beautiful women in the village, and he's just says, no, I want Edith with her beautiful name and her beautiful brown hair.
Brown, not chocolate, not mahogany.
Ash,
Yeah,
there's
so many descriptive words.
Beautiful words you can use for her beautiful hair and not brown.
Yeah, no, it's
just
brown.
open at the source, Lacey.
Yeah, open at the source. Oh, you're such a bitch. So the other character that's kind of mentioned is Egil, and he also makes like all of 2 appearances.
He's just a filler character, really. He has no personality, no development. No, he's not fleshed out in any way.
No, not. I mean, none of them really are.
Well, he does become a bear.
He gets fleshed out that way. Bears have more flesh, I guess. Yeah. Character development, not that great. As for the writing style, I was actually really excited when I first opened the book because the first couple of pages, the scene is set so beautifully. Like, descriptive writing is on point. Wonderful alliteration. Just really, really good job of setting the scene, painting the picture. And then she's bored and just thinks, I want to get this over with. You know what? Yeah, she's like halfway through and it's just like, brown hair.
Becomes very lackluster.
Yeah,
after
it does.
That point.
It's inconsistent is what it is, the writing style.
Yeah.
Because there are like good parts of it and then there's just like they're like doldrums in between where there's just like not a whole lot going on. And I feel like that really could have been fleshed out more. Like
Speaking of using the same phrase over and over again.
Oh my God. I throw my hands up and surrender so many times that I notice it in a 73-page book. Like, just saying, if you're going to write a 73-page book, maybe you should be more creative in your word usage. Yep. Like, don't reuse words. If you're writing a 500-page book and twice a character throws their hands up and surrender, like, yeah, it's 500 pages, tons of words. I'm sure no one's really going to notice that. But, I mean, if you use it 3 or 4 times in a 73-page book, people are going to notice. Or at least I did. Yeah. What should we talk about next? There's just so much going on. I just can't even keep it all straight.
Well, Should we give some advice?
Ooh, relationship advice. I like
Yeah.
it. Yeah. What advice would you give to Asbjorn?
Well, let me get started
She's
here.
like,
So
glad you asked.
I've been doing a lot of thinking about this guy. You know, he. The more I think about it, I think he might just be a little naive. He may not know how to approach. He may have been waiting for Edith the whole time, and because she doesn't have, you know, a fire pushing her
Personality.
ambition, she never. I mean, until the end, she doesn't really.
Yeah, that's true.
She doesn't make an attempt.
Yeah.
So he's also sensitive and he's caring. So maybe he doesn't want to intrude on her.
Yeah, I mean,
until-
clearly he's the caretaker of his sister and her kids.
Yeah, and we don't know the situation there, but he's making
We
a big
could've.
sacrifice. Instead of having his own family, he's taking care of his sister's family.
That's true. I didn't think
Yeah.
about it that way.
Right. So he's a nice guy.
So
I mean, besides turning into a bear and eating people and breaking down the church door and
and ravishing,
And-
you know,
yep.
cultures and stealing their treasures. He's a
Mhm.
really nice guy, guys. Come on.
yeah, no, he is.
So, in terms of advice,
What he waits months
that's
before
true.
he makes she talks about how they're attracted to each other and they
Right,
feel, and
right,
she's
there's,
always
like,
watching
the-
and waiting for him and
Yeah, yeah.
he just waits months.
He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So, like,
So speed it up a
speed
little.
it up.
You
Go
know?
chop, chop.
He was torturing her in
Yeah.
a way, you know. I mean, she could have made him.
She
she
could have totally made
done
a move
something
too.
as well, but yeah, you know, just why were you waiting?
I like the thesis though that he's naive. Like I didn't think
Yeah.
about that. Like, you know, maybe he spent so much time like, well, is he the older brother? Is he the younger brother? Like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe he was forced into a position of authority in his home like
Mhm.
before he was fully matured, so he never like had time to think about other
Yeah.
women or like options or something.
Mhm.
I don't know. It seems like a thin excuse. You're a Viking. Vikings take what they want, right?
I mean, he'd probably be a younger brother, right? He's not the one that got land or anything. It wasn't passed down to him. He could be younger.
I mean, that's assuming that we're sticking with the historically accurate theme in a shifter werebear romance.
There's more historical accuracy in this book than there is shifting into a bear.
That's true. That's true. That was, I mean, you know, as a history nerd myself, I was pleasantly surprised.
Mhm.
As a fan of smutty romance, I was a little disappointed. You know,
I went into it thinking I'm going to critique the history in this book.
Yeah.
And then I was, I was a little disappointed at how it was decent.
Damn it, this isn't going to be nearly
Yeah,
as
I mean,
funny as I wanted it
He
to
has horns
be.
on his helmet on the cover, so
Yeah, I know,
I wasn't
yeah.
expecting this, but
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Well, I mean, still, your advice is pretty solid. Like,
Yeah.
hey, get your shit together.
yeah. So what would
Woo
you
the woman.
What would you tell Edith?
Well, you know, on the one hand, I would have said, "What are you doing? You've been kidnapped. You're in another foreign land. Like, get away. Like,
Yeah.
get away from your captors." But then I thought about it for a second, and she's kidnapped in a foreign land.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nobody there. Like, who's gonna help her?
And she's incredibly lucky. They're taking care of her.
Oh my God! He hides her from the Jarl
Mm-hmm.
when it's time for them to like show off all the things that they've captured and let their Jarl like take the first pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he didn't even want to take a chance.
I
with
know.
her.
He was like,
Yeah.
no, like I'm hiding you.
Mhm.
So like clearly she is being well treated. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say, because she obviously has an attraction to him as well, she could have easily made a move too. Like
Yeah.
crawl into his furs at night or something, bitch. Damn. You know?
Yeah, I mean, he
Like-
was very receptive to it when she did actually go after him.
Yeah, they
but-
have like one kiss and it's like fiery and emotional, and then they stop for reasons that are not illustrated.
Yeah.
They just stop. They're like, "Oh, no." And then he leaves and then she's like distraught.
Mhm.
But like other than that, there's no push from either side. It's like, you know, this is a romance novel. Like there's supposed to be romance and there's one sex scene. There's a bunch of like making eyes at each other and like sighing with longing, but like there's no real explanation for like why they're not going after each other. There's no development of sexual tension. It's just assumed that it's there.
You know, I wonder, since I guess did it take a certain moon for them to shift? I wonder if maybe
Was it the new moon?
Yeah, it was the black moon
the
or
new
something.
moon.
I wonder if maybe he was worried about how much control he had over that and was worried about maybe hurting her.
But they fuck like right after he shifted into the bear. So he can't be that worried about it.
I don't know. Like maybe that was his hesitation.
I don't know. It would have been nice if somebody, like maybe the author, had like written a little bit more about it. Because then we'd know instead of just sitting around postulating.
Well, it is a paranormal werebear romance, which means there are more to the series.
I'm honestly, this is not inspiring me to go out and read them. Like, sorry, I'm just being honest. All right. Well, clearly there's no helping these idiots. So let's just move on to our favorite quotes. There are a couple good ones. Now, I just want to preface this by saying, when I had envisioned writing down my favorite quotes, I was totally thinking of like grimy, like dirty, licentious, sexual descriptions. But there really weren't any in this book, which was like kind of a letdown.
I did write down one. It's short, but it impacted me in a way. So he was buried up to the hilt. I thought, that's an interesting visual, interesting,
Now, you are, by your own admittance, not well versed in romance novels.
I'm not.
Up to the hilt is pretty frequently used.
I didn't know that. And also, even as a novice with romance novels, it did seem tame. It seemed the scene was tame, It was It didn't make me uncomfortable, really.
And it should.
Which is what I was expecting. I was expecting smut. I was expecting just something
raunchy.
Yeah.
I mean, and also I would just say, like, if you're going to use hilt, like, go the whole 9 yards. Like, sword. He sunk his sword into her sheath up to the hilt. Like, come on. Like, don't just use one word and be like,
yeah, she never goes back to that part. But
yeah,
I
know.
It was just...
Yeah, well, she's this author is very focused on olfactory senses. She's writing a lot about smell. And I know you have a quote about smell. If you want to share yours first.
I will share mine. So... we didn't really talk much about her husband, Alfred, did we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, he's not very fleshed out, but she does hold on to her ring for a while.
She does, yeah.
Yeah, and she wonders
for about 60% of the
book.
book.
Should I get rid of it? Should I,
She's clearly still struggling with this recent loss.
Yeah, she may just not know how she's supposed to be reacting to this, or feel guilty about her attraction to Asbjorn. Anyway, Alfred is dead. She said, to the house, to the fire, to the inanimate objects around her. He has gone to heaven. He is gone, and I am hungry. Just like a bear.
Just like a bear.
She closed her eyes, took in a deep breath, licked her lips. She could still taste Asbjorn. This is after they had their
furious kiss.
And smell his sweet. Can't read. It's not sweet, it's his sweat. It's musky.
His musk.
Smell his sweat in her nose. She pulled off her ring and cast it into the fire. So that's a big turning point. I thought that was important in the progression of the plot.
I just thought it was a little unnecessary to describe smelling his sweat in her nose. Like, where else are you going to smell things? Like, she smelled his sweat in her ear. Like, I don't know. It was like she chose to be descriptive about the wrong things, kind of, Although,
Scorch, could I get a top off, please?
My quote regarding smell is a little weird. So they've come together as man and woman at this point. She's now seen him transform, run away from him, been chased down, pinned down. They've begun the dance of the genitals or something. I'm not a romance author. And so the quote is, quote, she could feel Asbjorn's eyes on her, but was too overwhelmed by the smell and feel of him to open her eyes. And I thought that was weird. Like,
I think I'm overwhelmed by the smell and feel of this very strong drink. Thanks.
I know, he's trying to kill us.
There's barely any cranberry in this.
It's like 2 shots of vodka. Glug, 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 glug.
Yep.
Yeah, but no, I thought, like, being overwhelmed by the feel of something, like, I totally get that, but overwhelmed by the smell?
Yeah, I was thinking, he was a bear. He was eating something. I mean, he could have been eating people. He probably has little scraps of flesh and tissue stuck in his teeth.
Your putrid breath is
yeah.
stinging my eyes. I can't open them.
Yeah, it could be,
I mean, maybe. That's not
I expected more bear to come out in this part.
Yeah,
but there's no bear.
The sex was so vanilla.
It was gentle.
He, like, grabbed her buttocks at one point. It was like, okay. No,
She
it was
gave him
cupped.
some soft-
It was cupped.
Yeah.
He cupped her buttocks gently. And, like...
Some soft kisses on his stubble. Oh, I remember he shaved at one
He
point
shaved-
for her.
yeah,
She
right.
was very impressed by
She's
that.
like, oh. Yeah, and also, like, another weird thing that that this author... Not really sure what this means. This is while they're doing it, and and he's being very gentle and un-Viking with her, and he goes, "My own one," he husked into her ear, a light stubble scratching gently at her jaw as he tenderly pinched and rolled her nipple between his fingers. My love, like. I don't even know how to feel about reading that. It's like, okay, first of all, what is husking? Like, Scorch, can you pull up Google, like, what the fuck is husking? Like, I know what husky is, like the dog, but also, like, a husky dude.
Yeah.
Or, like, a husky voice.
Mhm.
Like, maybe...
Yeah, you think voice. Right.
Yeah, I mean, but, like...
Was it husking?
Husky,
husked.
like a husky.
No.
Oh.
It's, he husked in her ear.
Husked.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Husked.
Is it even a verb?
Remove the husk? Or
He's like shucking
her
corn
ear.
in her ear. He's like, take the husk off. Like, what?
a usually dry or membranous outer covering.
Ew. What is on her ear?
It's like, she's got fucking cauliflower ear. Yeah, I didn't get that at all. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is the problem, right? Like, if I'm reading a romance novel, I really don't need to be distracted by oddly used words, right? Like, I want to see...
Oh, speaking of oddly used words, do we talk about how she used modern Norwegian and then modern German?
Oh, yeah, she did. She
Yeah.
totally, like, apparently in pre-Viking era England... or early Viking era England, they spoke modern German. Who
Yeah.
would have thought?
But I was thinking, because I listened to the audiobook version.
Right, because you
and-
can't read.
Yeah, that's exactly why. And as I listened to it, my thought was they're trying to make us as readers or listeners feel what the characters are feeling in not understanding each other.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get that. I
which
get that.
if it was intentional is actually a good effect. It
Yeah,
really-
that's a good
yeah.
literary device. She should have used more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, man, I wanted to like this book for all the wrong reasons, and instead I liked parts of the book for the right reasons, and I didn't like parts of the book for the wrong reasons.
It's mediocre. It's in media. You want to love or hate. I wanted to hate it. I wanted to correct
right,
the
yeah.
history in it. I wanted it to be gross and crude and wrong. But
I wanted it to
wasn't
be full of
good
smut.
either. It was
God
just
damn it.
mediocre, and that's the worst you can be.
Yeah, no, it really was. I gave it 2 bleeding hearts out of 5.
I gave it 2 bleeding hearts as well.
Yeah, that's because it was horrible, but not in a
But
good
not,
way.
yeah. Right.
Not in the
It's-
fun way. It was horrible in the like. I was disappointed
Right.
by it, right? Because I wanted to read it and be. I didn't want to be disappointed by the lack of sex. I wanted to be disappointed in, like you said,
And feeling uncomfortable.
like the historical inaccuracies or like the bad writing. Like if it had been
Right.
bad writing the whole way through, then it would have been easier. But
Yeah.
instead, I was misled by the first like 2 or 3 pages
Yeah.
of this brilliant descriptive writing with alliteration and like beautiful. Now I'm all worked up. Goodness. But no, seriously, it was just like, what? I felt like Edith, just not getting any attention from Asbjorn. It's like, I need it.
Lacey, you let us down.
Come on, Lacey. I mean, honestly, there's like a part of me that wants to go and read like another one of these and
was
see,
thinking about it.
Like, maybe this is the worst one and maybe the other ones are really good.
It's completely possible, yeah.
I mean, do we know which one it is in the series?
I think it's number 2, actually.
Oh, well, there should be more backstory then. Like,
Yeah.
It would be kind of excusable, the lack of character development and stuff, if this was like the 4th or 5th book in the series. Because
Yeah.
by then you're like, okay, like maybe we know the characters, or at least we're familiar with these werebear shifters and
Yeah.
their habits and like, their powers and their limitations or whatever. But it was just like, it was like she wrote 75% of the book and then was like, oh shit, this is supposed to be about werebear shifters. Let me like write a bit of it in.
Oh,
like,
no, wait. It's a romance novel,
oh
too.
shit, right. I totally forgot to write romance into it.
Yep.
Like, yeah, it felt, 2 out of 5 bleeding hearts for me. I wish we had more to talk about, but with 73 pages,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
I mean, there's a lot more you can do with 73 pages, but still.
Yeah, you could write 73 pages of disgusting sex, which is what I wanted. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave you guys to ponder the mysteries of werebear shifters, but you can check us out on social media. We are on Facebook and on Instagram as Between the Covers Podcast. Below are our individual Instagram handles, if you care. We're also on Twitter. We are between_covers. And
We have an email.
betweenthecoverspodcast@gmail.com.
And there you can send us recommendations for books.
Yes.
You see an interesting, weird title or, interesting plot, just let us know. And also, if you want some dating advice of your own, feel free to ask us.
We're experts, clearly. Do you want to introduce next week's book for us?
Yes, next week's book is Some Like It Scott by Suzanne Enoch.
Ooh, Some Like It Scott. Is it Some Like It Scott, or is it... Yes. Yes, it is. And Scorch is going to pull up a picture for us.
This one actually is a very raunchy cover art, so...
Ooh, and it's 300 pages?
Over 370 or something like that. It's pretty long, actually.
I'm excited. That's going to be good.
Yep.
Let's pull that up. Let's see how raunchy it is. Ooh. Yes. Look at that.
Who does that?
Wait, what is the thing on it?
It says something. What does it say?
It says like, how plaid do you want it? I'm excited. I want it pretty plaid. All right. Well, we'll leave you guys to think about these things, and we hope you enjoyed your time with us. Be sure to tune in next week, Friday at 8:00 p.m. for our next episode of Between the Covers.
Good night.
Good night.
There's so much beauty in the